Was muted there. Happy Monday. Happy Labor Day. The NFL season is just 3 days away from kicking off, and we have a special video planned for you tonight. Tyler Mroz, Heat Ratio Sports, not Phillies pregame or postgame. Today is all about the NFL. The season is starting. I'm so excited about it. One of the more exciting seasons of recent memory. I haven't been this excited for an upcoming season probably ever, honestly. So, gonna go through all my predictions. Who's gonna win what? Who's gonna lose? Who is gonna everything? We're gonna be talking about everything. So, if you have any thoughts, leave your comment down below. This is all about interaction as well. I want to hear what you have to think because not everyone has the same opinion. My opinion is not going to be the same as Johnny's opinion or Sally's opinion. So don't be afraid. Write down what you think if you agree or disagree with me. This is what this is for. This is all about fun and what we think is actually going to happen. So, season coming in hot, but something else that's hot. What coaches are going to be on the hot seat for this upcoming season? Going to be doing a tier ranking list. So, let's see which coaches are going to be on the hot seat. So, we got July, Florida. If you have been, unfortunately, in Florida during the month of July, you know that it is like death. It is the sun. So this is coaches I can see. I think are going to get fired. And if they get off to a slow start, I think they could absolutely be fired in the middle of the season. Warm, not quite there, but I do see on the track of getting fired if their team disappoints. Room temperature is could go either way. Freezing cold. Oh, we got to switch these up. That is in the wrong spot. Shame on you, Tyler, for not making sure of that. Chilly. Don't really think so, but if things go wrong, maybe. Freezing cold. Absolutely no way that this person gets fired. And then fresh from the store. I don't think any of the first year coaches are getting fired. Spoiler alert. So that is fresh out of the store. What's going on, Adam? Gonna get into this right now. So hopefully stick around. Got a lot coming your way. So first one is Sean McDermott. I'm gonna put him in room temperature. The Bills did just have a massive overhaul throughout their entire team. They have not made the AFC Championship game. Is their window closing? I'm not sure, but they got rid of Stephon Diggs. They traded him to Houston. Gabe Davis left for the Jaguars in free agency. So the Bills wide receivers right now are Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir. So not much to work with, but I think the Bills are happy with Sean McDermott's success. I mean, he's not the greatest coach, but he's still one of the better coaches in the league. Keeps that defense relevant. So I don't think that he's going to get fired, but if it goes really wrong, maybe, but I still think room temperature is a perfect spot for him. Mike McDaniel, he's freezing cold. There's a 0% chance he gets fired this season. Dolphins just extended him through 2028. So not happening. Earliest I could see it is possibly next year if the Dolphins don't win a playoff game this year and don't win a playoff game next year or not make the playoffs. But freezing cold for Mike McDaniel. Don't think he has a chance of getting fired this season. Now we got Robert Saleh. I'm going to put him in the warm category. Now, normally, if this was probably any other team, I would put him in July, Florida. They're red hot. But I'm going to put him in warm. Very disappointing last couple of seasons for Saleh. I am a Robert Saleh fan. I do think that the Jets' wrongdoings are not his fault. I think that they are Joe Douglas's, not having that backup quarterback, not having the quarterback position ready to go. You had the Aaron Rodgers trade last season, tears his Achilles 4 plays into the season. So Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, Trevor Siemian are your quarterbacks for the rest of the year. But I think it's different this year. I am pretty high on the Jets. So I think Robert Saleh, if the Jets disappoint, I think there's a good chance he is going to get fired. But Jets owner Woody Johnson is a big Saleh fan. Said after last year that there was no way that Saleh was getting fired. And so I do think that he is in the warm category. Now, Adam, if the Eagles start off bad, do you think Sirianni will be warm or hot? Let's go to Nick Sirianni. Actually, it's by division. So I'll get to Nick Sirianni pretty soon. Gerard Mayo, fresh from the store. No way. Probably besides Jim Harbaugh, the least likely coach to be fired. He was groomed for years as the Bill Belichick successor, and this is his first year as the head coach of the Patriots. Obviously, following in the footsteps of Bill Belichick, so that's really humongous shoes to fill. But Gerard Mayo was, like I said, groomed to be the successor for years. They are not getting rid of him in his first year. Even if they go 0-17, there's no way Gerard Mayo gets fired because he has his rookie quarterback. Now he's starting to build up the team the way he wants to. So Gerard Mayo, at least 3 to 4 years minimum. And I think he's going to be there for longer than that. Now, Zach Taylor, we're going to get our first July Florida of the episode. I think he might be the most likely of the coaches to get fired if their team disappoints. Bengals, disappointing year last year. I know Joe Burrow dealt with some injuries, same with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but I was never a big Zach Taylor guy. And obviously the Bengals made the Super Bowl a couple of seasons ago, lost to the Rams, came down to one of the final plays. So I was never a big Zach Taylor guy. He's only had that 1 year to really build up his resume. So I do think if the Bengals miss the playoffs, I think Zach Taylor is going to get fired. Mike Tomlin is on cold. Adams. That could be a hot take right there. So get to him. I think in terms of getting fired, Mike Tomlin is freezing cold. In terms of not being with the team after this season, I could see Mike Tomlin in room temperature. So obviously averages, I'll put him in chilly. There is no way the Pittsburgh Steelers fire Mike Tomlin. The only way Mike Tomlin is not on this team after this year is if he decides to do what Sean Payton did and retire for a season and then come back, see what team needs a coach, or they're going to mutually part ways. But I don't even see the Steelers wanting to get rid of him. There's just no way. Never had a below 500 record in his career, and he's been around 4 years. There's just absolutely no way Mike Tomlin is fired. You will not see Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport tweet out that breaking news, the Pittsburgh Steelers have fired head coach Mike Tomlin. That is a 0% chance of happening. I can see him potentially leaving the team again if they don't make the playoffs or if it's another 7 seed blown out in the wild card round. But I'm going to put Mike Tomlin in chilly. I don't think that he's not going to get fired. So, and Kevin Stefanski, freezing cold, 2-time coach of the year winner. No chance they fire him. Just won it again last year. Had Joe Flacco, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Deshaun Watson as his quarterbacks, and he still almost won the division. So there's absolutely no way that Kevin Stefanski is fired this year. Jim Harbaugh. I am not, this might be a little bit of a hot take. I'm not the biggest Jim Harbaugh guy. I do think a big reason as to why the Ravens have not been able to get super far in the playoffs, at least to the Super Bowl. Jim Harbaugh in the recent year, obviously he's a Super Bowl winning coach, not discrediting anything he has done. But in terms of right now, not a huge Jim Harbaugh guy. I'm going to put him in freezing cold, though. I don't think that this year, I don't even think the Ravens would even consider it this year. Harbaugh is coming, part 2. Niners, not the Niners. Oh, my goodness. Niners, Ravens did play in the Super Bowl while Jim Harbaugh was coaching the Chargers now. Oh, my goodness. I'm getting my Jim Harbaughs mixed up. But John Harbaugh, no chance that he gets fired this year. Same thing with Shane Steichen, second-year head coach, was one of the best offensive coordinators in the league for the Eagles. Helped out Justin Herbert to be what he has become in Los Angeles. Came to Philadelphia. Once he took over the play calling, the offense took 5 steps up. So Steichen developing Anthony Richardson. This will be his hopefully first full season with the with Anthony Richardson. Richardson got hurt early last year. I don't see Steichen getting fired. Jim Irsay and Chris Ballard, they like to keep their guys around for a good amount of time. So Dougie P, he's on the hot seat. He really is. Shad Khan, the Jaguars owner, said that this was the greatest Jaguars team ever assembled. So if your owner thinks that and you disappoint after failing to reach the playoffs last season, I do think Doug Peterson is on the hot seat. I don't think he should be fired. I think they should fire Press Taylor because that's the exact same reason Doug Peterson was fired in Philadelphia is going to be the reason he gets fired in Jacksonville. Press Taylor ruined Carson Wentz, ruined the Eagles' offense, and he's starting to do it with the Jags. They lost Calvin Ridley, brought in Gabe Davis, drafted Brian Thomas Jr. So I don't know about the Jags. I'm so back and forth with them because I'm like, yeah, Trevor Lawrence, the most hyped up college quarterback since Andrew Luck. So, but I do think if the Jaguars disappoint, they will move in a different direction. And potentially Doug Peterson's last chance because it's been kind of the same formula for him so far. Develops the young guy. They have a nice little playoff run, and then the very next year miss the playoffs, disappoint. So, Dougie P, I definitely could see getting fired. D'Amico Ryans on the freezing cold. Second-year guy. Texans made it to the AFC divisional round last season. D'Amico, I believe, was a finalist for Coach of the Year last year, so you are not firing him. Even if he goes 0-16, there is just a 0% chance D'Amico Ryans gets fired. Brian Callahan, former Bengals offensive coordinator, don't think that he's going to get fired. Like I said, I don't think any of the new coaches are going to get fired unless they go 0-16, which I don't think any of these teams will. Not particularly high on the Titans, but I do think that no matter what happens, he's going to be kept around. Sean Payton, freezing cold again. No chance he gets fired. They paid him all that money. They traded a first-round pick to acquire him from the Saints. 0 chance. He has his guy in Bo Nix, so Sean Payton isn't going anywhere. Same thing with Jim Harbaugh. They literally just hired him, one of the greatest college coaches of all time. Michigan just won a national championship, and the Chargers just hired him to be their head coach after suffering with Brandon Staley for years. I was a big voice in saying that the Chargers should have gone after Sean Payton after the Chargers blew that game in Jacksonville in the wild card round. But nonetheless, Chargers had Jim Harbaugh now, and he's not going anywhere after this season. And now, Adam, bold prediction. He thinks Andy Reid is going to retire after this year. And I kind of, if they win the Super Bowl, I think that's going to happen. But Andy Reid, I think, is retiring within the next 3 seasons. But no matter what, he is freezing cold, one of the greatest coaches of all time. 2 different teams, too. Had a ton of success with the Eagles. Didn't win a Super Bowl, but he's won 3 with the Chiefs. He's won 3. So, first ballot Hall of Famer. Andy Reid's not going anywhere. Antonio Pierce. I am going to put him – do I want to put him in chilly or room temp? He was the interim coach last year. Raiders had this situation before where Rich Bisaccia took over. Once the whole John Gruden thing came out, they were 4-0. John Gruden gets fired because of the emails being leaked. And Rich Bisaccia takes over. Raiders have a phenomenal season. And then they go and hire Josh McDaniels. And Josh McDaniels was just fired after his, first? It was his first season, second season. So they did the right thing this year. They kept the interim coach. But how patient are they going to be with him? He was an interim coach. So if he struggles this year, I don't know. I'm going to put him in – do I put him in room temp or chilly? I'm going to put him in chilly. He was a player's coach. A lot of the players said that if they did not sign him to be their full-time permanent head coach, that they would leave the team. So I think he's chilly, but I don't think he's 100% safe. You'd think he's warm, Adam. Wow. That's the thing. He was an interim coach. He was not the front office's choice. They obviously picked Josh McDaniels. Antonio Pierce had a decent end of the year last year. Raiders definitely looked a lot better under him, but that's not saying much. Josh McDaniels is a horrible head coach, always was, and was with the Raiders. So I could see him being warm, but for now I'm going to keep him in chilly just because of how great he has. He's respected by the players. Max Crosby said that he would request a trade if he was not named the permanent head coach. So they are not going to lose Max Crosby. They do not want to do that. So if they have to keep Antonio Pierce to do so, they are going to do that. Dougie P, better team with Eagles than he does with the Jaguars. That is very true. I'm not a Trent Baalke fan. My family are huge Jaguars fans. Shout out to the Fogos. So I get to watch a lot more Jaguars games than I would normally do. And Trent Baalke, I just don't see him as a good general manager. Obviously, the Jags had made the playoffs a couple years ago, 2 years ago, had that huge second half comeback against the Chargers, and then they lost to the Chiefs. Missed out on the playoffs last year. It's just the testament of how important GMs are, because you have a guy like Howie Roseman who surrounds the team with talent. And then what happens in 2020? Does not surround the team with talent. The wide receiver core is Jalen Reagor, Travis Fulgham. Don't disrespect my boy Travis Fulgham. He balled out, but at the same time, did not have a good coordinator, didn't have the best offense. Carson Wentz heavily regressed, and boom, Doug Peterson got fired. I think they should fire Baalke and or Press Taylor over Doug Peterson, but I do think that Shad Khan is having a thin line of patience with Doug Peterson. And then Dan Quinn, he's out of all the coaches that were hired, I could see him being the one to get fired, especially if they have a really bad season. You could potentially have Mike Tomlin, even Doug Peterson, maybe Bill Belichick. He's going to be a head coach next year. So if he shows any interest in coming and you're struggling, I think they would do it in a heartbeat. But Dan Quinn, obviously, he was an excellent defensive coordinator with the Dallas Cowboys. People forget how good of a coach he was in Atlanta, made it to the Super Bowl in 2016, obviously the 28-3 Patriots comeback. He was this close from winning a Super Bowl, doing what Doug Peterson did a year later, almost beat Tom Brady and Bill Belichick in their prime in the Super Bowl. So I don't think he's still going to get fired, though. Jaden Daniels is his first year. He has his rookie guy. He's going to be there for the next couple of years. Mike McCarthy, do we put him in warm or July Florida? I'm gonna put him in warm. I might change this by the end, because I do think if Bill Belichick calls up Jerry Jones, he's like, yo, you're not getting it done in the playoffs. Bring me in. Fire McCarthy, bring me in. I'll get you to the Super Bowl. I think Jerry Jones would be crazy enough to do that. There might be a little bit of the egos clashing, because I think maybe Bill Belichick wants a general manager role. I don't know. Does he just want to be a head coach? Does he want to be both? So if Bill Belichick shows any interest in joining the Dallas Cowboys, and the Cowboys do not make at least the NFC title game, I think he's gone. But we all know Jerry Jones likes to keep his guys around, kept Jason Garrett around for many, many years, way longer than he should have been there. But I do think Mike McCarthy is warm. Same thing with the Jets. If this was any other team owner, they'd be in July, Florida. But because of Jerry Jones being comfortable with his guys, I think he's staying in warm. Adam, you think it's going to be July, Florida? I might change it by the end. We'll see. I do think Jerry Jones would keep him around, though, unless Bill Belichick comes calling up and says, hey, hire me. Nick Sirianni. Warm. Hear me out. I know a lot of people are going to say, you're a biased Eagles fan. Put him in July, Florida. This is a make or break year for Nick Sirianni, because you had the fiasco collapse of last year. You start 10-1, and you finish 11-6, and you get blown out in the first wild card game. Complete collapse. And that all fell on Nick Sirianni. Hired the wrong coordinators. Both were fired after last year. So this year is a make or break for Sirianni. I don't know if I'm going to put him. But that's the thing, though. The Eagles have made the playoffs, and every year Sirianni has been the coach. They made a Super Bowl. So you're going to fire your guy 2 years after a Super Bowl? Unless it's as bad as last year, I don't see him getting fired. I'm going to keep him in warm for now. Oh, Mr. Clappy. A lot of people just say that anybody could coach the Eagles, that Sirianni is just a yes man, just to stand there and take the blame for Howie Roseman. That's what many people thought Nick Sirianni was going to be when he was hired. But I think he's warm. I don't think he's red hot. If the Eagles start off with a losing record, he's going to be at the top of this list. Maybe Bill Belichick's coaching the Eagles. We shall see. But for now, I'm going to put him in warm. Brian Dowell, chilly, because he has Daniel Jones. They committed a lot of money to him. Dowell just won Coach of the Year 2 seasons ago. Don't think he is in any danger. I think the Giants are happy with him, but another really bad season. I could definitely see him maybe getting fired. Maybe the Giants clear house again. Maybe they fire Joe Sheen as well. Don't see any of that happening though, unless they win 1 or 2 games, which honestly could be possible with that offense. But their defense is really good, so I'm going to keep him in chilly. I don't think he's 100% safe, but I think he is a little bit chilly. Matt Eberflus, the most likely coach to get fired if the Bears underperform. He has Caleb Williams. They have Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze, DJ Moore. That offense is stacked. They upgraded all around. They got DeAndre Swift too. So if you do not have a somewhat step forward, if you don't have any kind of step forward, he is getting fired. A lot of people said he should have been fired last season, bringing a new head coach for the rookie quarterback, for obviously Caleb Williams. Another really hyped up guy. I think he's a favorite for offensive rookie of the year by far right now. But nonetheless, Matt Eberflus, if the Bears are any kind of disappointing, gone. There is no leniency with Matt Eberflus and the Bears. If they don't take a step forward, he is as good as gone. Dan Campbell, one of the most safe coaches in the league, coach of the year contender every year, one of the best coaches in the league, a top 5 coach in my opinion. So Dan Campbell, don't think he's going to get fired anytime soon. Same thing with Matt LaFleur. Packers keep their guys around unless they disappoint. Packers have not had a bad season under Matt LaFleur. Even last season, they beat the Dallas Cowboys in the first round of the playoffs. They didn't beat them. They beat them up. They beat them up. So Matt LaFleur, safe. Same thing with Kevin O'Connell. No, I'm actually going to put him in chilly. Doesn't have a JJ McCarthy they drafted. He's out for the year. So you have Sam Darnold this year. Vikings have had decent success with O'Connell. Did not make the playoffs last year, but you also had the Kirk Cousins Achilles tear. And then the year before that, you lost to the Giants in the wild card round. I don't think they're going to fire him. I don't think he's 100% safe. But with his quarterback situation, I think the team is very much more lenient. And I am a Kevin O'Connell guy. I think he is one of the better coaches, like one of the better top 15. So don't think he is going to get fired. Todd Bowles. I'm going to put him, do I put him chilly or room temp? Because he was the defensive coordinator when the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl. He was the successor to Bruce Arians. Had a disappointing year with Tom Brady, his final year, and then won the division last year with Baker Mayfield. I'm going to put him in chilly because I don't think he's going to get fired, but I think if the Buccaneers have a really disappointing year, I think there is a decent chance that he goes because I was not the biggest Todd Bowles fan. I think as defensive coordinator, he's one of the best in the league, one of the better, and if not best, defensive minds in the league. But as a head coach, not huge on him, but I still think he's decent. I think he's a decent head coach, so I'm going to keep him in chilly. Don't foresee him getting fired unless the Buccaneers are really bad, which I don't see happening either. Raheem Morris and Dave Canellis, let's just put these guys in fresh from the store. Fresh from the store. Stay fresh merch. Coming soon, maybe? Maybe. But Raheem Morris, they gave him a 6-year contract. They drafted Michael Penix. He's going to be there for the long run. Dave Canellis, Bryce Young is in his 2nd year. They really need him to take a step forward. Bucs offensive coordinator really helped Baker Mayfield get to the Baker Mayfield we knew he could be. So Dave Canellis and Raheem Morris are both fresh from the store. Adam thinks Connell is at room temp. I don't. If JJ McCarthy was starting this year and the whole team was really bad, I could see it. But for now, I'm just going to keep him at chilly. I don't think that he is going to get fired, even if they have a really bad year. Dennis Allen, maybe even more likely to get fired than Matt Eberflus. I don't know how he has lasted this long as the Saints head coach. Really did not like the hiring and especially have not liked him as the Saints head coach. They have not made the playoffs. They have not looked any kind of they haven't looked competitive in any kind of way. Saints, I honestly think this is an under the radar team for Bill Belichick. So don't think that Dennis Allen will be the coach. I don't even think he's going to make it to the trade deadline. I think he's going to be gone before then. I'm not high on the Saints at all. Not a big Derek Carr guy. Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara are obviously on that offense, but again, I'm not really big on them. Not really big on them as long as Dennis Allen is the head coach. Didn't have past success as a head coach and doesn't have it now in New Orleans. So I do think he's red hot in July, Florida. Kyle Shanahan, freezing cold. You can argue that, it's his reason that the Falcons lost the Super Bowl, and it's his reason that the Niners lost the Super Bowl the last 2 years, or the last 2 times they made it. And you have valid points, but they're not getting rid of him. He's one of the best coaches in the league. Not even a question. There's no, until Kyle Shanahan retires, or unless the 49ers have a lieu of horrendous seasons, he's staying on this team as long as possible. Jonathan Gannon, I'm going to put him in chili. The reason the Eagles lost the Super Bowl 2 years ago is that man right there, because he was too busy getting an interview with the Arizona Cardinals. He wasn't focused on getting a defensive scheme, a game plan. He was just worried about getting a job with the Cardinals. So glad he did, because now he's gone. At least the Eagles don't have him anymore. But the Cardinals were not a good team last year, don't get me wrong, but they didn't look as bad as a lot of people thought they were going to. If they are really bad again, I could see him getting fired. But Kyler Murray's back. They have Trey McBride, who just broke out, just drafted Marvin Harrison. So I'm going to leave him in chili just because he's a second-year guy. But if they're really bad again, which I don't think they will be, then I definitely could see him being closer here. But don't think the Cardinals are going to be as bad. They overperformed just a little bit last year. So too early to tell with Jonathan Gannon. So I am going to leave him in chili. Adam thinks he's warm. I wouldn't even put him that high. Like, the highest I would put him is room temperature, because it's his second year. He's got Kyler Murray back. Maybe if the Cardinals are like, all right, we have a window here with Kyler Murray. We have Marvin Harrison Jr. now. There's no excuse. But I'm not a big fan of their defense. I don't think the GM has done a particularly good job building that up. But for now, just keeping them in chili. Sean McVay, same boat as Mike Tomlin. You will never see a tweet from Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport saying the LA Rams have fired head coach Sean McVay. Sean McVay won them a Super Bowl. Sean McVay has made the playoffs in almost all of his seasons there. He made another Super Bowl. So there were rumors that he would not leave the team until Aaron Donald retired. And what happened this year? Aaron Donald retired, and there was that whole thing 2 seasons ago about him potentially leaving the team. So if the Rams disappoint and Matthew Stafford is on the verge of retiring, I can see Sean McVay taking a year off. He's not going to get fired, but I could see him leaving the team after this year if they take a major step back. I think they're going to take a step back. You lose Aaron Donald, one of the greatest defensive players of all time. Obviously, your defense is going to take a step back. They lost Raheem Morris, their defensive coordinator, to the Falcons. So I think the Rams are taking a step back. We'll get into that a little bit later. But Sean McVay will not get fired. Maybe will leave the team. And then Mike Macdonald, one of the most sought-out head coaches this offseason besides Jim Harbaugh. Not going to happen. He's Pete Carroll's successor. Not going to happen. So here we go. Our list. I got 4 in July, Florida. Got Matt LaFleur of the Bears, Dennis Allen of the Saints, Zach Taylor of the Bengals, and then Dougie P., former Super Bowl winning coach. David, my Rams will win this Sunday night in Detroit against the Lions. I could see that, maybe. We shall see, though. We'd like to have McVay on the – if the Eagles can somehow get Sean McVay, sign me up, because he's an offensive mastermind. If the whole Kellen Moore thing doesn't work out, absolutely 100% would love to have Sean McVay. I think it's more likely they get Bill Belichick than Sean McVay, just because I think if McVay leaves, he's going to take a year off, kind of do what Doug Peterson did, build up his staff for when he eventually gets hired. But if Sean McVay somehow ends up on the Eagles, that would be awesome. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Sirianni sticks around for another year if they don't disappoint. If they make the playoffs again, he immediately, I think, goes back down to here. Probably even Chile. I don't know if he's 100% safe. But for now, he's in warm along with Robert Saleh, Mike McCarthy, room temperature. Sean McDermott, only one. Don't think it's going to happen, but I think it could. Mike Tomlin, Sean McVay, this should be in the tier of their own. Won't get fired, might leave team. That's just, if I have another tier, that's what it would be. And then you got Antonio Pierce, Brian Dable, Kevin O'Connell, Todd Bowles, and Jonathan Gannon in the chili. So most likely not going to, but if they really disappoint, could happen. And then freezing cold, 0% chance. None of these guys are getting fired. Could we see anybody retire? Most likely Andy Reid. None of these guys, no. None of these guys would retire except for maybe Andy Reid. Sean Payton's in it for the longer. He's in it for a couple more years. He's got his guy now. He's not retiring. Neither are any of these guys. I don't think any of them are getting fired, honestly, just because they're first-year coach. Most likely is Brian Callahan, in my opinion, to get fired. I really don't see any of the other coaches even having a shot at getting fired, no matter how bad they are. But if Brian Callahan disappoints, I could see him out of all these guys getting fired. But yeah, so that is the tier list. So let me know what you thought of that. And then this video is not over. We're not doing just a tier list. We're 30 minutes in. I didn't expect it to take that long. But we're going to go into the awards predictions. And then we're going to go into some potential trade pieces this year, most disappointing teams, and then obviously the division winners and the playoffs. So let's get it started. Who do I think is going to be the MVP of the National Football League? Call me biased. I don't care. Jalen Hurts is going to have a bounce back year. Kellen Moore was brought in to be the offensive coordinator of this team, and these were his stats as the Dallas Cowboys offensive coordinator. First in yards, 14th in yards, first in yards, 11th in yards. Was 18th last year with the Chargers. They had putrid offense. Kellen Moore is one of the best offensive minds in maybe the whole league. I'm very high on him as the Eagles offensive coordinator. So I think Hurts with the rushing numbers, I don't think he's going to have as many interceptions this year. He had 15 last year. Not going to happen this year. I don't think it was all on him. A lot of people like to blame him for the Eagles' downfall. I think it was all coaching. When it's 4th and 1 and you run 4 verticals and you have no receiver anywhere close to the line of scrimmage, any support, they just run down the field. Obviously, if he's getting blitzed, he has nowhere to go. So obviously, he's going to scramble and panic. But with Kellen Moore, I think it just opens up the offense to endless possibilities. And I think he's going to win MVP and carry the Eagles to a 1 seed. Spoiler alert. Offensive player of the year. This guy had a phenomenal rookie year. Breece Hall, one of the top picks in fantasy football this season. I think under that offense, Nathaniel Hackett tends to run the ball a decent amount, but obviously, especially with Aaron Rodgers coming off an Achilles tear, don't think that he's going to be throwing the ball a ton. I think he's going to be throwing a good amount, but not a ton. I think they want to give Breece Hall a good amount of touches, and I think it's going to be enough to carry him to the Offensive Player of the Year award. Obviously, we have seen it. Lamar Jackson won the MVP last year. It should not have been him. It should have been Christian McCaffrey or even Tyreek Hill, but the MVP is a quarterback award now. The Offensive Player of the Year is a positional player award. So I think Breece Hall is going to get Offensive Player of the Year. We got Offensive Player of the Year, A.J. Brown. Ooh. Check that into my veins. I think he's going to have a monster year. I think he's going to have his best year of his career, which is saying something because he's been absolutely out of this world with the Eagles so far. Kellen Moore. People forget what Amari Cooper did as the wide receiver 1. And Jalen Hurts, arguably better than Dak Prescott. A.J. Brown, better than Amari Cooper was with the Cowboys. So I think it just opens up the offense, especially with Devontae Smith. You got to worry about Dallas Goedert. You got to worry about Jahan Dotson. Oh, yeah. You got to worry about Saquon Barkley, too. And then you got to worry about Jalen Hurts on the ground. So A.J. Brown is Offensive Player of the Year. I could definitely see that if, Devontae Smith has a monster year, and then they kind of put double coverage on him instead, which I don't think is going to happen. I think all the double coverage goes onto A.J. Brown, but I could potentially see him being that. Now, Depoy, Penn State guy. Maybe a future Eagle. Maybe if whoever manifesting this in the thing, Micah Parsons. I think he's going to be the Defensive Player of the Year. Absolute stud. Was debating on giving this to either TJ Watt or maybe Myles Garrett, but it's kind of rare unless you're Aaron Donald to win it back-to-back years. Also, shout out Max Crosby. So He was probably the guy I would have picked over Micah, but I do think Micah is going to have a good enough year with the Cowboys. He's been a phenomenal player. Just listen to how good he has been in just his short time in the league. It's loading now. 14 sacks last year, 13 and a half the year before, 13 before that. Finished third in Defensive Player of the Year last year, and then finished second the previous two. So I think this year is the year he finally gets it. Mike Parsons, a stud. In my opinion, the best defensive player in the league. That's maybe a hot take. Over Max Crosby, over Myles Garrett, over TJ Watt. I am taking Michael Parsons over all those guys. Not even a question about it. Now we go to the rookies, the youngins. Offensive Rookie of the Year. I do think it goes to Caleb Williams. Whether or not the Bears make the playoffs or not, I don't really think the playoffs matter too much when it comes to these Offensive Player of the Year awards, but they always give it to a quarterback. If a quarterback has a decent year, they're going to give it to him. They gave it to C.J. Stroud over Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua literally had the greatest wide receiver rookie season ever. He shattered all the records that Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson broke, and he still fell short to C.J. Stroud. It's a quarterback award. If there is a rookie quarterback, especially someone as hyped up as Caleb Williams, he's on a bigger market team in Chicago. So I do think that Caleb Williams is going to get this. Could see it being Marvin Harrison Jr. as well. But if Marvin Harrison Jr. has an insane year and Caleb Williams has a pretty good year, they're going to give it to Caleb Williams. They'll always give it to the quarterback, no matter what. It's sad that this is what the NFL has come to, but it is what it is. And then Defensive Rookie of the Year. I'm going with a guy who is currently, according to Sports Betting Dime, the tied for second favorite for Defensive Rookie of the Year. LA Rams edge, Jared Verse, their first-round pick out of Florida State. I am very high on him. I think he fits perfectly into this defense. I mean, he has a huge void to fill, Aaron Donald leaving, so I think that opens up a lot more production for the other guys. I think Jared Verse will have a monster rookie year. I could see him getting double-digit sacks, honestly. I think he'll get anywhere from 8 to 10. So I do think Jared Verse, Defensive Rookie of the Year. Comeback Player of the Year award. It's never about who comes back from injury. The year Geno Smith won the Comeback Player of the Year award, they should have given it to Brandon Graham. It's the Comeback Player of the Year award. Someone who comes back from an injury. Brandon Graham was 35 years old, tore his Achilles, came back, and got a career high in sacks. But they gave it to Geno Smith. Why? Because Geno Smith was a bench guy for a majority of his career, was a first-round pick, and then he finally had a good year. So they need to either make a breakout player of the year award, like a most improved, and then have the comeback player of the year. But I do think it's going to be Aaron Rodgers, no matter what this year. Surprised they didn't give it to DeMar Hamlin last year, especially the whole storyline. They gave it to the storyline. But Joe Flacco was a really good storyline as well. I'm just incredibly shocked they didn't. But if Aaron Rodgers has somewhat of a decent year, nobody's going to win it over him. 4-time MVP, Super Bowl champion, coming back with one of the biggest markets, if not the biggest market team, the New York Jets. If he has a decent year, he's winning this award by far. Coach of the Year, Dan Campbell. I'm pretty high on the Lions this year. You shall see coming up shortly, but I do think they will have one of the, if not the best, in my projections right now. I think I have them 13-3. Yeah, I have 13-4. I always forget that they had the 17th game. So I have them as the second best record in the NFC. I do think they'll give it to them. The NFL, same thing with Caleb Williams. They just want to do this. They want this to happen. They are praying that this happens. So if Dan Campbell is in any kind of contention this year, I think they're going to give it to him. They wanted to give it to Stefanski last year with the whole Flacco thing and all the quarterback fiascos. He absolutely deserved it. I think this year, if Dan Campbell is in somewhat of contention, unless there's like a surprise team that is unbelievable, I think Dan Campbell is going to be the coach of the year. Biggest breakouts, I'm going to go with Jameson Williams of the Detroit Lions. If there was a would he technically be a comeback? He didn't get hurt at the end of the year, but he was suspended. Does that count? Do they do that for suspended players? I wonder if those are qualifications. Do you have to be injured or like a bench guy? Like if it's suspended, does that automatically like cut you out of contention for that. But I do think Jameson Williams is going to have a pretty big breakout year. Talk about guys that could be traded. Now, this one, there are a few reaches, but it is I'm reporting on these. These are just throwing names out there based on contract situations, based on team success, based on other teams' needs. No way am I saying that, oh, I've heard rumors that this person is on the trade block or they could trade him. I'm just throwing these names out there because that's my job. I got to talk about these things. So let's talk. Dak Prescott. On the final year of his contract, Cowboys just paid CeeDee Lamb. They still have to pay Micah Parsons. And Dak is a free agent as of right now after this season. And if they fail to be competitive by the trade deadline, I don't think this is going to happen. But if the Cowboys are kind of falling behind in the standings, what's to say if the Vikings, if Sam Darnold is okay, but they're in contention, what's to say they won't trade for him for the rest of the year? So could happen. Do I think it's going to happen? Absolutely not. But it's a name. He's a free agent after this year. Cowboys could regress. You never know. I do think that if they regress, I think there is a chance. Love the jerseys behind it, especially the Kelsey one. I love the Jason Kelsey one. It's my favorite. And obviously, Gardner Minshew. I do have a random jersey collection. Obviously, Jason Kelsey and Gardner Minshew, two completely different players for the Eagles. I have a Tebow Eagles jersey. I have Darren Sproles jersey and a Carson one. So kind of a weird set of jerseys, but I'm proud of my jersey collection. I don't have many, but the ones I have, I'm proud of and I love them. So setup's going to be looking a little different in the coming days for those who watch the Phillies pregame. And then anything else I do on here, setup is going to be a little bit different. Going to play around with it, see what works. But getting back to this, Justin Fields, another guy that's likely going to be a free agent at the end of the year. Steelers named Russell Wilson their starting quarterback, named him a team captain. So are they really going to bench him for Justin Fields? I don't think so, unless Russ is egregious, which I don't think he is. I don't think he's that good anymore, but I think he's serviceable enough, especially on Mike Tomlin-led team. They had Kenny Pickett as their quarterback for the longest time. Kenny Pickett is not that good, was not that good for the Steelers. So unless Russell Wilson is atrocious, I think Justin Fields could be on the trade block. Maybe the Vikings make a play for him. Maybe a team like who could do it? Maybe if Dallas trades Dak Prescott, maybe they could trade for Justin Fields. I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe the Giants, if Daniel Jones, they're like, all right, we're done. Let's see what Justin Fields can do. If he balls out for us, maybe we can extend him, but can definitely see him getting traded if the Steelers see a good trade they like, or if a team offers a good enough deal. Jacoby Brissett, Drake May is going to be their starter of the future, but Jacoby Brissett, as of right now, is QB1 in New England. They are not going to be competitive this year, so I do think at some point he's going to get benched for Drake May because I think they want him. They're going to try to be competitive at first, and then once they realize they will not be competitive, they are going to put in Drake May, try and develop him in his rookie year, and if any team needs a serviceable backup, I definitely think Jacoby Brissett is option number one for a lot of teams. There's a lot of teams that could use a very good backup quarterback. Had some time with the Browns, and he was very good when Deshaun Watson was suspended. So definitely, I think he's the most likely of all these names to get traded. I think that's almost a given. And then this guy right here, Gardner Minshew. Currently, the Raiders quarterback one, but again, if he kind of struggles a little bit, they want to get Aiden O'Connell in. He's a second-year guy, started for them a lot last season. So I definitely think he could get traded if another team wants to back up. So I do think Gardner Minshew, just another name, free agent. Didn't they give him a 2-year deal? They might have. So a team trading for a backup quarterback with another year under control. I think that's very likely to happen if Minshew doesn't work out as the starter. Like Brissett, the backup hurts. I don't know if he really fits the system. Like I would like a guy like Tyler Huntley, but he just signed with the Ravens. So I'm not sure fit-wise, but it depends on the kind of offense. We have to see what kind of offense Kellen Moore runs and if Jacoby Brissett would fit in. Maybe they trade for Minshew again. Who knows? James Conner, they have Trey Benson, one of the better young running backs, maybe arguably the best running back taken out of this year's NFL draft. So James Conner hasn't really stayed healthy all that much. So Cardinals could look to move on from him, whether it's a trade or a cut. If he doesn't stay healthy, if he isn't productive, they have Trey Benson ready to go. So James Conner is on thin ice. This one is never going to happen. But he's sitting out right now. Jamar Chase, he's not going to get traded. But, like I said, it's my job. I got to talk about it. He is potentially not playing week 1 for the Bengals because he wants a new contract. Now, there's a report saying that he wanted a penny more than Justin Jefferson. He just wants to be the highest paid wide receiver in the league. Despite having 2 more years left on his contract, they're not going to trade him. Joe Burrow is one of his best friends, so not going to happen. But a wide receiver from the Bengals I could see getting traded. T. Higgins, he's playing on the franchise tag this year. A lot of talk about not bringing him back. There's debate whether he would even play on the franchise tag, but he is. And if the Bengals are falling behind in the standings or if they have a young receiver coming up in the depth chart, it could make sense for a lot of teams that need receivers to not send the bag because he's an expiring contract, but send a decent package in return for T. Higgins. I think he is very likely to be moved by or before the trade deadline. How many games until the Cowboys fans call for Trey Lance? Ooh, I don't know. I don't think they will because I don't think Trey Lance is that much. He's not even that. Dak is good. Dak is a good quarterback. Trey Lance, maybe he finally developed. He led the league in the preseason in passing yards, in touchdowns, and in interceptions. So it's the preseason. Do with that what you will. But if Dak struggles a little bit, I think they'll call for him to get traded and for Trey Lance to start. Whether that's going to happen or not, who knows? It's Jerry Jones. It's the Cowboys. Anything can happen. Another huge name receiver that I could definitely see getting moved, Davante Adams. Deshaun Jackson went on his podcast. I don't know if it was his podcast, but he said that he talked to Davante Adams and that he was not happy in Las Vegas. When your quarterbacks are Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, who did they have last year? Was it Jared? No, it wasn't Jared Stidham. I forget their other guy, but had Derek Carr, but he's gone. So does he get traded to the Jets? Do they make a move? Because Aaron Rodgers is always recruiting him. He's always like, yeah, I would love to play with Davante again. I really want to play with Davante again. So if the Raiders are struggling, and if Davante Adams requests a trade, I could see it. This is the biggest realistic name I think that could get traded. DeAndre Hopkins, I think he's on an expiring contract. Titans, I'm not high on. So if they're kind of struggling, they want to ship him off to a contender, maybe the Chiefs, maybe if the Ravens need another receiver. Do think that D-Hop could be on the move. Jags, if they fall behind, Christian Kirk has a huge cap hit. So if they want to kind of save money for the offseason, Christian Kirk, very underrated receiver, could see him on the move too. And then the Saints, don't think they're going to be good at all. So they could ship off Marshawn Lattimore. I wanted the Eagles to get him in 2017. I ended up going with Derek Barnett. Lattimore went before the Eagles could pick him. So maybe the Eagles trade for him if their secondary is struggling a little bit. But I do think Lattimore is the biggest defensive name that is going to get moved. I think it's almost a given that he gets moved. I think the Saints are trending towards a rebuild right after this year with a new coach. So I do think Marshawn Lattimore has a good chance at getting traded. And then now we get to talk about not specific records, but just teams, how they're going to do in general. I think the surprising teams, I think the Chargers, I think the Broncos, and the Falcons. Chargers brought in Jim Harbaugh. You look at their offense. The receivers are Josh Palmer, DJ Chark, and Lab McConkey. Now, you would think that, no. They have Greg Roman as their offensive coordinator. They brought in Jim Harbaugh, who's coming off of a national title. Jim Harbaugh has made it to a Super Bowl. Justin Herbert, one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Last year, people were calling him a top 5 quarterback. So with that offense, with Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, I think that the Chargers are going to make a playoff push. I think they might even make the playoffs as a low wild card seed. So Broncos, Bo Nix, I think he's going to do well, especially with Sean Payton. I think they're going to contend for a spot as well. I think the AFC West minus the Raiders is going to be very competitive. And then the Falcons bringing Kirk Cousins, Darnell Mooney on the offense, obviously Michael Penix too. We won't talk about that. Uh, whole new system. It's not Arthur Smith. Kyle Pitts is finally going to get used this year. You still got Bijan. You still got Drake London. I think the Falcons are primed for a big year. I do think they're going to win the NFC South. Maybe. I don't know. You're going to have to wait and see. But, yeah, another team I really do think could be really good. Maybe the Commanders. People forget how good Dan Quinn as a coach, like I mentioned earlier. So I definitely could see them being a surprise team. And now, actually, let's answer this. You think Bradbury will make it through the old season without getting traded? I don't think so. I mean, I don't think he's going to get traded or cut. He's on injured reserve 6 to 8 weeks. So I think they're just going to suck it up and keep him for the rest of the year. If they move on from him, it will be in the off season. Have fun with the Falcons game, man. That's going to be electric. Another Kirk Cousins prime time in Philadelphia to open the season. Disappointing teams. Not high on the Jags. Lost Calvin Ridley, replaced him with Gabe Davis. They still have Tank Bigsby, and he was pretty awful for the Jaguars last year. And apparently he's going to get an even bigger role this year. Had a lot of trouble fumbling the ball. So with Press Taylor as their offensive coordinator, don't think they are going to be all that well. Think they are going to have a disappointing year once again. Did bring in Eric Armstead on the defense, drafted Brian Thomas Jr. So I think they could be very good, but I just don't see it happening. They have the potential to be there. They have Trevor Lawrence and they have Doug Peterson. I just don't think it's going to happen. The Saints, I think they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. Derek Carr is not that good. Neither is Dennis Allen. So I think they're just due. Oh, man. Excuse me. I think they're just due for a rebuild soon. I think this is the year where their owner goes, all right, we got to get this underway. We got to start doing this now because they have been stuck in this loophole of mediocrity. So they got to get, I think they're going to get out of that this year and just go into a rebuild and start contending maybe in the next 3 to 4 years, at least for a playoff spot. Now, the moments you've all been waiting for, the divisional winners. NFC East, I don't care if it's biased, I don't care what. The Eagles, Kellen Moore's in, Saquon Barkley on your defense. You got rid of both your coordinators. Vic Fangio is the defensive coordinator of the team now, one of the best defensive minds, if not the best in the game. And I just do the NFC East curse. There has not been a repeat winner since 2004. Eagles started the season 10-1 last year. They were looking to break the curse, and they didn't. If it's not the Eagles, it's the Cowboys, but I don't think that the Cowboys are good enough to win the NFC East this year. I think they'll be a wild card team, if anything. Eagles, I think, are primed to win the NFC East. NFC North, Detroit Lions, mentioned Dan Campbell as the coach of the year. Going to be really high on them. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the most underrated receiver in the league. I know people are like, Tyler, he's like a top 10, borderline top 5 receiver. I think he's even better than that. I think he's has an argument to be the best receiver in the league. Hot take there. But really love Amon-Ra St. Brown. Aiden Hutchinson on the defense. Definitely, their defense is just well-rounded. They kept Ben Johnson, so I think the Lions are primed for a big year. NFC South, mentioned the Falcons. Surprise. I do think, are they even considered a surprise team anymore because people are expecting them to be good? The NFC South this week, Panthers, I think, are going to be the worst team in the league this season. Same with the Saints. I think they're going to be a bottom 5 team as well, maybe even 2 bottom 3 teams from the same division. So NFC South is really between the Bucs and the Falcons. I think the Falcons will just edge out the Bucs, but I don't know if the winner of this division is going to get 10 wins. I think they might get 9, might finish 9-8. Don't think it's going to be a losing record. So maybe 9-10, maybe 10. I don't see it though, but I do think the Falcons will come out on top. NFC West, Niners, the best team in the NFC arguably right now, coming off of a Super Bowl appearance. It's just hard to bet against them. Rams, I think, are taking a step back, and I don't see the Seahawks or the Cardinals taking big enough steps forward to overtake the 49ers. A lot of people are saying Christian McCaffrey is going to have a regression year just because of the number 1 pick curse in fantasy. I could see that. Prayers up to Ricky Pearsall. He was shot. He's probably out for a little. He's definitely out for a little bit. I mean, he was shot in the chest. Thankfully, he's okay. I don't know how long he's going to be out for, but nonetheless, they extended Brandon Ayuk. They still have Deebo Samuel. They still have that insane defense. Nick Bosa. They have Javon Hargrave. Did lose Chase Young. He's not on the team. But Fred Warner, one of the best linebackers in the league. Travarius Ward, one of the better cornerbacks in the league. They have Talafua Huanga, one of the better, hardest hitting safeties in the league. So hard to bet against the Niners. Definitely think that there is a three-headed beast in the NFC. It's either the Eagles, it's either the Lions, or the 49ers coming out of there. For my three wild card teams, I am going to have to go with the Cowboys. Unfortunately, I think they will be one of the wild cards. Packers, I think they're going to have a really good year. Definitely can see them competing with the Detroit Lions for the NFC North crown. And then I have it on here. I do it's called Playoff Predictors, V2. You can pick every game that tracks it. So right now it has the Rams 9-8. I do think they're going to take a little step back, but I still think they'll be good as long as you have Sean McVay as your coach. You will be decent. You have Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, coming off of the greatest rookie wide receiver year of all time. You have Cooper Kupp, Kyron Williams, drafted Blake Corum, Jared Verse. I think he's going to have a big year. So I think Rams as the 7th seed. So again, Eagles winning the division as the 1 seed, Niners 2 seed. Is this right? Yeah. Lions 3 seed, Falcons 4 seed, Packers 5 seed. Yeah, I lost my placing there. Cowboys 6 seed, Rams 7 seed. So we'll get to see what the championship games are a little bit later. AFC East, Dolphins, Bills took a step back. Don't think they're going to be as good this year. Think they'll be competing for a playoff spot, not a divisional crown. Jets could give them some competition. Dolphins love to have that beginning of the year, even 3/4 of the year. They look dominant, unbeatable. And then the last quarter happens, and they just look very stagnant. They look like frauds. It's happened the past 2 years. Could happen again this year, but I think it is going to be a good enough year to where they can win the division. Ravens, Lamar Jackson, coming off of an MVP performance. Ravens were the 1 seed. Browns, I don't think improved enough to overtake them. Neither did the Steelers or the Bengals. So Ravens, I think this is going to be the biggest gap in divisional standings. South, Houston Texans. I think they're a little bit overhyped. Maybe a hot take. CJ Stroud, maybe a little bit of a sophomore slump. Same thing with D'Amico Ryans. Not as high on them as everyone else's. I do still think they're going to win the division. Don't think the Colts are good enough to get there yet. They are a wild card team. And then I mentioned the Jags earlier, and the Titans, not high on them at all this year. So I think this could potentially, like I said, the Ravens one was going to be the biggest gap. I could see this one being the biggest gap between first and second place as well. I don't think the Texans are a elite team yet. I think they're a really good team, but people saying that CJ Stroud's a top 5 quarterback, relax. He's not there yet. You can't say a rookie is a top 5 quarterback after his first year. I don't care who you are, unless you are Patrick Mahomes. Like his rookie year, he won MVP, and he should have made the Super Bowl that year. Lost to Tom Brady in the AFC title game, but at that point, you can call him a top 5 quarterback. But CJ Stroud, offensive rookie of the year, should have gone to Puka Nacua. Not discrediting his rookie year at all. Phenomenal, one of the better quarterback rookie years. I think he's going to hit a little bit of a sophomore slump, but I still think they'll be good enough to make the playoffs. AFC West, Chiefs. It's always going to be the Chiefs. Same thing with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. You are not going to bet against the Patriots to win their division. It's a given. They may not be as good as they were in previous years, at least in the regular season, but the Chiefs are the Chiefs. Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce. Andy Reid's Andy Reid. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. NFL, I beg you, don't shove Taylor Swift down our throats this year. Made me root for I did root for the Chiefs, though. I just can't stand the Niners. I'm sorry. I can't stand the Niners. So I had to root for Taylor Swift to get a lot of media attention, for the Chiefs to win. Hopefully that doesn't happen this year. So we'll see. We'll see. Just NFL, please. Please. Don't shove down our throat. Show her once or twice. That's cool. That's a really awesome thing. Brings a lot more fans to the NFL. But please, don't show her like 10 times. Isaiah Pacheco scored a touchdown last year in a game, and they panned to Taylor Swift. Stop that. Don't need to see her after Isaiah Pacheco. If it's Travis Kelce, different story. Isaiah Pacheco, you got to show her. Really? Come on. That's just my plea with the NFL. Going now, the title games. NFC title game, I think, is going to be at the link. Detroit Lions at the Philadelphia Eagles. And unfortunately, I have to go with the Lions here. I think this is their year to make the Super Bowl. There's the three-headed beast I said earlier. It's the Eagles, the Lions, and the 49ers. And I think they're going to go back to back to back against the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are going to beat the Ravens in the Super Bowl. Not the Super Bowl. To go to the Super Bowl. I think the Chiefs, the NFL is just going to do everything they can to help them get there. Obviously, you can't rig a game, but they're going to do everything in their power to try and get the Chiefs back to the Super Bowl. The three-peat with Taylor Swift. You have the whole proposal thing with Travis Kelce, yada, yada, yada. But it's all marketing for the NFL, and they want the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And the Chiefs are good enough to be in the Super Bowl. Their defense is insane. Their offense is insane. They are the best team in the league, coming off of 2 consecutive Super Bowls. Super Bowl 59. The Chiefs and the Lions. Drum roll, please. I do have the three-peat happening. I think Travis Kelce and Andy Reid both retire after this year. Could see Travis Kelce staying around one more year going for a four-peat. But I do see Andy Reid retiring after this. Do think it's hard to top the Chiefs. You look at teams, they have to have that it factor. I think the Eagles have it. I think the Lions are good enough to make the Super Bowl. I'm not a big Jared Goff guy. I think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's going to be a quarterback you win because of. When you look at teams that have won the Super Bowl, you win games because of these quarterbacks. With Patrick Mahomes, even Matthew Stafford, he had his best year. Finally looked like the quarterback that he was trapped in Detroit. Came to LA, was phenomenal. I mean, Aaron Donald really won that game, but you have to have a quarterback you can win because of. I don't think the Lions are going to win a game, a big game, because of Jared Goff. I think it's the rest of the team. But in order to win a Super Bowl, you need that. You have Tom Brady, Nick Foles. The Eagles won games because of Nick Foles. He didn't outduel. He did. He won the game. He outdueled Tom Brady. Sue me. I don't care. Nick Foles, one of the best performances in the Super Bowl. Tom Brady, best performing, lost, yada, yada. Nick Foles won. That's all that matters. They won because of Nick Foles. In the Super Bowl, you need to win because of a quarterback. Most valuable position in the entire sport for a reason. Patrick Mahomes, if he wins this, he's going to be in the GOAT conversations. I think he's going to surpass Peyton Manning or Joe Montana, whoever you have at number 2. Because obviously it should be Tom Brady number 1. Patrick Mahomes, he's a multiple-time MVP. He is he's 3 Super Bowl MVPs. I don't know. If he wins another one this year, I think, solidifies himself as the second best quarterback of all time. Could argue maybe 3, but he's definitely top 3 if he wins this year, which I think is going to happen. So went over an hour here. So pretty good show here tonight. Catch Tony live tomorrow at Pike's Pub, 6 to 9 p.m. He's going to be doing Phillies pregame. He's going to be doing a lot of bets. So you are not going to want to miss that. He'll be talking more on the Eagles, on stuff maybe we didn't get to touch on a lot here. So appreciate everyone tuning in. I will be here live on Wednesday for Phillies pregame show. Phillies at Toronto. Tyler Phillips is pitching on tomorrow. So who's pitching Wednesday? Is it Christopher Sanchez? I think it might be Christopher Sanchez. So I'll be here live on Wednesday. Maybe I'll make an appearance at Pike's Pub tomorrow. Tune in, find out tomorrow, 6 to 9 p.m. So thank you so much for tuning in. This was the NFL season predictions. Of course, 100% of this is going to be right because I'm right about everything. It's not. Probably going to get most of these wrong. But anyway, again, appreciate everyone tuning in. Have a good night, everyone. Stay safe. And as always, there we go. Right there. Stay fresh, my friends. Have a good night, everyone.